Welcome to Growth Stories, where I like to meet entrepreneurs from all different walks of life, different industries. And today I'm blessed to meet Richard Abrahams from Elmhurst Windows.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Richard. And one of the big things that, entrepreneurs that I tend to meet people from all different walks of life, like I say. And one of the big things is that we tend to meet people that have started their businesses from scratch. But Elmhurst, tell us about yourself and your journey, because it's slightly different to other people's.
Yeah, basically, Elmhurst was launched in the early 70s, 1971. My father set the business up and he saw a niche in home improvements, especially windows. And we've been very lucky that our brand has remained very strong in the Leeds area for many years. And I came on board in 1992, not actually I didn't have any ambition to join the family business. So that's another story. But 30 odd years later, I'm still there and we're still there.
Wow. And so Elmhurst, geographically, whereabouts are you based, and kind of what's your geographical area?
Leeds predominantly, in all LS postcodes, we've got a very strong brand recognition. And for many years in the 80s, we pushed out towards sort of York and even out towards Scarborough. But to be honest, on the service side, you've got to look after your local customers. And we decided that really Leeds has got enough households to, 300,000 plus households. There's a lot of work to be done, and we concentrate generally on the LS postcodes.
And I think, obviously, competition is always a big thing. I always say, I don't know if you've ever read any of my blogs or listened to them. Well, this will be one of the first anyway. I always say you're your own competition. So you've always got to push yourself harder, listen to your customers or prospects and say, find out what they want and need. But what sets Elmhurst apart from the competition, which is probably quite a fierce type market?
I'd use the word trust. And our strapline is the trusted name in home improvements for 50 years. And we do have, I'm not just saying it, an excellent reputation for not just the service that we give our customers, but the after sales. And this is key because our industry is, double glazing has a bad name because a lot of the national companies, whether it be the selling tactics or the after sales, are poor. We have maintained the same values we had in the 70s, quality and great after sales. And that is what sets us apart.
Well, the word trust is used a lot. And like you say, some people use the word, but actually it's all talk. And we always say talk's cheap and action speaks louder than words. So definitely resonates with me. In terms of, the team that you have working for you, and I don't know what your longest server is, obviously being in business 50 years, people have stayed with you and worked with you and obviously love the organization. But how big is your team and how have you developed that team?
Well, we say we're a family business, Martin, and not just, my father and my mum that work in the business. And over the years, we've taken on so many family members, actually, cousins, uncles, aunties, etc. But the word family means a lot because outside the family, we have got some very loyal members of staff. We're talking about staff that have been there 30 to 40 years. My office manager, Adele, our surveyor, Clive, fitters, Paul, Tom, I can name quite a few. They've been with us for years. The problem is that they're getting older, so that's going to be a challenge. But we really are a family. People do like working for us. We look after them. They look after us. And that is, again, customers like dealing with small family businesses. And that is a very important part of our culture.
And just before we started the podcast, we were talking about, your father and yourself, and you were in a local cafe. Just tell me the story again, because it was really interesting. I think that tells me about like you say, this trust.
Yeah, we were sat in a local cafe at Moortown, and Dad, although he's not involved in the business as such, or he wants to make sure that I'm okay and the business is okay. He's got his little Elmhurst jacket on. He's always trying to get leads here and there, his dad. And the couple came in and we said hello. They looked at the Elmhurst brand, and the guy said, "Blooming heck, are you Jack Abrahams?" And Dad said, "Yeah." He says, "You came to see me 47 years ago. You did me windows." He says, "I've been to you now 4 times. Windows, conservatory, roof line." He says, "We've come back for some more windows." And that just sums the whole setup that, we've been there years. Dad loved it. And that shows you, sometimes you don't really think about how good your brand is and how good your loyalty is. But that is a story that proves that we've got the credibility in this area.
And I think that's so important because I know talk about the landlord of the pub and you have your name above the door and people follow you. So there is the brand, but you're behind the brand. And I think it's so important that, you build that loyalty up and like you say, 4 times now. And the cost of winning a new customer is expensive. It can be expensive. So that loyalty is so important. But going back to the business now, because I love to hear entrepreneurs' stories. What do you think, in your personally, what do you think was the best idea or like a moment that you think kind of helped to transform a little bit your business?
I think I'll have to take you back to the COVID lockdown times, to be honest, because there we were, what's actually going to happen? And I had a vision even before the manufacturers and the software companies sort of got on board to realize that we can communicate with our customers in a different way without going to see them. And I moved this very quickly, and it did transform the business in a time where there was a lot of uncertainty. And through online, whether it be Facebook, Zoom or whatever, we managed to get into customers' houses with them there and us here and quote for the work and win business without going to see them. That was a big turning point. Now, obviously, a lot of companies have on the bandwagon since then, but really, I turned this round very quickly, Martin. I think it was a big turning point because actually in the last 18 months, the business has grown significantly. And this type of different approach does prove that you can actually turn things on its head. And you don't really have to go and sit in a customer's lounge for a couple of hours now to sell them windows. It's lovely. I mean, we do have to go out eventually to obviously survey, but it proves you can sell in a different way.
Yeah, and also it's more sustainable, isn't it? You're greener, so you're not driving there, driving back. It's very efficient, and you can do more in a day. And as you know, running a business, time is money, and you need to use it effectively.
Correct.
So, what would you say what do you find the most challenging, and what would you say keeps you up at night, gives you the sleepless nights? And obviously, I can see you've got no grey hairs, so you don't have any sleepless nights.
Oh, I have plenty of those. The biggest challenge at the moment is recruiting and specifically installers, because the whole construction industry is so busy. And, the days where you could go and steal a fitter or two or offer them more money, or there was always someone that was a bit, despondent with who they were working for, came on board. I've had to turn things round, think outside the box. Believe it or not, Martin, last week I went down to the Polish club. Now, I used to go down there for pierogi, chips and carrots. I'm sure you'll remember it, where it cost you £2.50. But I actually didn't go to the Polish club to eat. I went to talk to them about recruiting Polish and actually Ukraine workers.
Sounds a smart move.
Well, it was a smart move, and I worked very quickly on this because there are Ukraine, unfortunately, some very sad stories coming into at Leeds and want opportunities. And believe it or not, I've already got one guy starting next week. A family has been taken from their house. It's just a horrific story, but they're in Leeds and we see an opportunity. Hopefully this guy will help us, and this could be the start of a different type of recruiting.
Well, that's the best form of charity, isn't it? Giving somebody a job, giving somebody a start, helping the family. So that's amazing. Good on you. And in terms of mistakes, what would you say your biggest blunder that you're prepared to share with the audience?
Well, I suppose it wasn't specifically business related, but someone that came into the office that wanted a load of windows told me that he actually valeted cars and did car repairs. And I took my eye off the ball a bit, Martin, I'll be honest with you. And I gave him my car keys. I never saw the car again. It cost me a lot of money. I wasn't insured, and I trusted this guy. He didn't want his windows either. Anyway, after a long court case and a lot of money, I now realise that what I should have done is gone back to the normal valeting guy and car repair guy and not, I was a bit sort of, it was a silly mistake, but we all make them.
Listen, that's what business is all about. That's what life's all about, is learning from your mistakes. I know my wife always reminds me of my mistakes. There you go. I said I would plug you, and I have.
Thank you.
So the next, for me, the big thing about business is growth. And you have to have ambition and vision, and then you need to execute. So for you, ambition, what are the ambitions for the business?
We're in a great place at the moment because we're growing quickly and the home improvement market is growing too. Currently talking to one or two other guys in the industry. Actually, some are competitors, some are suppliers, because there's definitely some synergy between companies and our industry. And sometimes you need to grow with other people. Personally, I could probably only take the business so far, but there is definitely a growth strategy that we're working on. But it will basically be part of a sort of a bigger picture. And ultimately, we don't know where Elmhurst is going, but certainly it's very exciting times.
So that's really exciting. And so Elmhurst and Co. could end up becoming a reality. But in terms of the valuable lesson that you've learned for the business, what would you say is the most valuable lesson? What could you share with us?
Well, valuable lesson personally, Martin, is probably how I've changed, which is regarding making decisions. And I think this is all to do with confidence and entrepreneurialism, if that's such a word. And that is going with a gut feeling. Years ago, I was having this conversation with my dad the other day. I used to have potentially an idea or a decision to make, and I threw it around a lot. I asked him, I was driving myself mad. And actually, nowadays, I just go with my gut feeling. Sometimes it's right or wrong, but the fact that I've made the decision is a big factor, and that to me also shows your other colleagues that you've got a lot of confidence in running a business, whether it's right or wrong. So that lesson to me is, and as my father always said, don't listen to the backstabbers or the bystanders. Go with how you feel. And I tell you what, it makes you feel a lot better when you've made it.
Yeah. So I always talk about gut, going with your gut. And also, you can't take away from the 30, 40 years of experience that you've had with Elmhurst. Because even when you weren't actually working in the business, you had to listen to your parents sit around the breakfast table, dinner table at night, whatever time your father had time to eat, and to hear the stories. And so you were brought up on it, weren't you?
Definitely, Martin. And you'll know that when you're brought up in a family business environment, don't forget, my mum has been heavily involved as well. And it was a great contrast between my dad, sort of decision maker, entrepreneur, probably liked spending money on promotion, where my mum was more cautious and she was a great organizer. And so I've had a bit of both. And I actually learned something from you, Martin, on a call going back a bit. I'm not saying I learned something, but this probably reinforced what I'm good at. And that is, it's great to have a network of people, and it's great to use your contacts to your advantage. And there is nothing better than getting on the phone and getting something sorted out. A lot of people are quite reluctant to do that, should I phone him? But I'm a great believer in going for it now.
Amazing. So that's an incredible story about the evolution of Elmhurst Windows. 50 years in business, built on trust. Richard Abrahams is a superstar in my mind. I've known you pretty much all your life. We used to play together when we were about 4 or 5 or 6. Obviously, that was only 20 years ago. But no, letting people, sharing that authentic, that whole story about yourself and your family is of real value. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Richard, today. You've really opened my mind up in terms of not only yourself and your family and how you've invested and spent pretty much all your whole life in this business, but also the great way that you do business and the whole thing about trust and the how you invest in making sure your customers are happy. That's just music to my ears, and I think the audience will find that very valuable. So a big thank you today for spending time with me. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed it as well.
I did. Very nice. Thank you.